What's going on, YouTube family? Welcome to Automotive Life. My name is Lucky, and today we're going to be giving you guys an update on the used car market. Now, I don't need a magic 8 ball to let you guys know that the market is not as good as what it's supposed to be. Not only for consumers, but dealerships as well. We're going to go over all the reason why prices are kind of staying stagnant, but we're watching vehicle values drop down while banks and everybody else is tightening up. It's basically not looking good for the used car market. So first we're going to talk about supply. Now I'm sure if you take a quick lap around the city you live in, you will see a lot of dealerships overflowing with inventory, almost to 2019 levels. We see a lot of new cars coming back into the market. Dodge, Ford, Chevy, except for I believe Honda and Toyota are the only ones that are still below capacity, and I think it's on purpose so they can get max amount of pricing out of their vehicles. But we'll talk about that for another video. But you can see all around town that supply is building up. Another great way to use this is Car Gurus. You can go to Car Gurus and you can check average days on market. During the pandemic, the average days on market were anywhere from 6 to 10 days, which means that cars averagely sat on dealerships lots for just that amount of time. But fast forward to today, and we're above 60 to 70 days average, which is even higher than it was back in 2019. Now, how can this be? Because remember, we didn't build cars for almost 2 years. So why is there these new cars not coming into the market? Why are there more used cars and more regular cars sitting on dealership levels? Well, this comes to our next thing, demand. Demand is pretty much about a third cut off from what it was about a year ago. We see record amounts of people basically walking away from their allocations. I know a lot of people that, ordered brand new Corvettes, ordered brand new trucks, and they just didn't want to pay the really high prices. Or when they put in their order, they were going to get maybe 0% or maybe 3% on their auto loan. But now the average new auto loan is around 8%. So people don't want to do that. And that's not including used cars. Just imagine if you try to buy a used car, you're looking at anywhere from 8 to 12% is an average with good credit. So people are basically trained of so used to paying 3 or 4%, sometimes even 2%, they don't want to take on this extra interest and this burden, and they don't want to deal with those high payments. So the demand is slowly dwindling. On top of that, we have banks that are getting very reclusive when it comes to actual lending. We see more restrictions being placed every single week. If you follow me on Twitter or Instagram, you see that I post almost every week. There's some sort of bank or some sort of dealer group that is canceling their funding. And so every time a bank steps out of the market, it scares everybody. And remember what I told you guys, that banks always worry about risk. Every time the needle moves, if they get a fraction of a percentage point higher in risk, they try to offset that with either bigger down payments, stricter qualifications for lending, or they actually finance a lower amount, whatever they can do to offset their risk. And what does this mean for the consumer? Well, higher interest rates, harder to get into the cars, and basically dealers can't qualify traditional people for vehicles. So all these things are basically snowballing up to making demand not really what it's supposed to be. Factor that in with absolutely insane insurance costs. I've talked to several dealers all across the United States that are losing multiple deals because the customers cannot afford insurance. I can personally attest to this. When I bought my 2021 Audi R8 brand new for $280 a month is what I was spending in insurance. Fast forward to today with no accidents, no problems, no tickets, I'm paying over $600 a month now. I don't know why. They won't give me a reason why. They just say that the insurance costs have risen quite a bit. And in some states, even in California, there's so much risk, so much fraud, and so much natural fires, floods, that they're actually getting out of California. So Progressive, Allstate, State Farm, a lot of these major insurance companies are walking away from California in general. So now that these dealers can't basically get somebody insurance on a vehicle, banks won't finance it, so now there's even one more hurdle they got to get over. Now, I know a lot of people are thinking, well, that's good, that's going to get me better deals, and now I'm going to be able to buy a better car. Well, here's the problem. So remember how I told you guys the average day on market is about 60 to 70 days? That's the average across the board. There are a lot of dealers that have held on cars for 6 months, even up to a year. So now these people basically overpaid. They bought these cars at the top of the market. And every month, remember, most dealers have lines of credit. They basically clean the cars, detail them, add gas. They have monthly reoccurring costs that add pricing to that vehicle. So if they bought it at an all-time high, let's say 60 grand, and now the value is around maybe 55, but every month they're adding $200-300 on it for carrying cost, interest, gas, detailing, and everything else. Maybe now after a year they're into this thing $65,000. but it's only worth 55. Because now, traditionally, when the market is good, we can convince banks to go over a certain amount of LTV, which is loan to value. So if the customer has good credit, I can be like, hey, you know what? This car is worth, less than what I'm selling it, but this guy's got really good credit. He's going to give us a few $1,000s down, so we're going to go ahead and finance the difference. And so most banks would do that, or the customers had the money to offset it. But as of basically 2023, banks don't want to take that risk, and customers, because we're in a recession, don't have that kind of money to basically put down on a car. So either the bank's going to pay it or the customer's going to pay it, is the way the dealership thinks. But now that none of these people are showing up to the party, the dealership's basically left with a car that they're upside down $10,000. And so that's why I made my video about how vehicle values are going down, but prices are not, is because these are some of the reasons why. So when I talk to a lot of people, they're very upset because they don't physically see the prices being dropped. And unfortunately, you're not going to see them. You need to actually call up that dealership and start negotiating with them. Hey, look, this car's been $65,000 for 6 months. I'll give you 50 for it. And just start being very, very aggressive. I'm telling you, you can look all over YouTube, Facebook, social media. You're starting to see deals like this start to pop up where they've gotten $5,000, $8,000, $10,000. I remember when I bought my Acura NSX, I went to the dealership. I knew it was there for over 8 months. They took it in on trade, and I think they gave the guy almost 170 grand because they bought it at the peak. After being for sale for almost a year, I came in and offered him $138,000 for the vehicle. They were mad, they were upset, but anyways, 2 weeks later, they finally called me and said, let's just get it off the books, move on, use that money to get something else. And eventually, all dealerships will do this, but you have to present them with a deal. You have to basically give them a way out of their bad debt. Because as a dealer, I will tell you this, if I'm buried too much in a car and I'm gonna lose $2,000, $3,000, I'd rather do it quickly when I have somebody on the hook, so this way I could sell that car and hopefully buy a new car at its lower value and turn around and sell it to somebody and make profit on that one and slowly outrun that bad debt. Now, there are some dealers that traditionally are stupid that will be chasing basically old money with new money, saying, well, this is, I'm losing money on this car, it's not what it's worth, but I'm still gonna add prices to it and I'm still gonna advertise it for the same price. And those are the dealers that are gonna have really catastrophic failures, which we're seeing. We've seen multiple used car auto groups fail in the last few months. Off Lease was one of the first ones that popped up this month. I know there's another one that's getting ready to file bankruptcy. I'm waiting to get some information before I say anything because I don't want to get sued. But there's a lot of people out there that are basically realizing that the market is not great. They see their leverage, and consumers are basically taking the power back into their hands and saying, I'm not going to pay this, I'm going to wait. And that's 2 words the dealerships don't want to hear. I'm going to wait. Because now they're going to be like, oh my God, if they say this phrase, that means that, someone out there is always going to be more desperate than you to sell the car. Their flooring lines are going to be on their ass. Maybe their employees want raises or their payments paid. So there's always going to be a dealer with extra amount of pressure, more desperate to sell that car. And so now that we're going into this part, don't be afraid to use your bargaining skills to get yourself a great deal. Whatever is written on the advertised price is not set in stone. But I'm going to tell you one thing. If you call and say, I'll give you this, they're going to tell you no. You need to either physically show up, you need to mail them a check, you need to do something, get in front of their face and let them know that you are a serious buyer. And I hate this when I hear people, well, there's nothing in my area. My Acura, the one I bought, the NSX, I drove all the way to Portland, Oregon to get it and drove it back. My Audi R8, I flew to Florida and picked that up and brought it back as well. If I'm willing to drive thousands of miles to save thousands of dollars, why not you? I've seen these people literally complain that they got to drive an hour outside of their town to get a deal and they don't want to do it. They're only staying in their little circle. So the more aggressive you are with actually searching for a car, I promise you, you will find a deal. And now we're going to be talking about the ugly part of the used car market, and that is people being upside down in their cars. Now, traditionally, people trade in their cars every 2 to 3 years, and this allows dealers like me to always constantly count on that flow of people. But unfortunately, when people were buying in 2020 and 2021, they were paying record high prices. And, fast forward to today, the vehicle values are not there. Interest is a lot higher, so they can't really typically afford their cars. And now banks are even stricter, so they can't trade those in, and we can't bury that negative equity into another car. Where before, when the times are good, you're $10,000 upside down, that's all right. I just put you in a more expensive car, and we kick that can down the road for another 5 years. But now the banks have basically lost so much money with more delinquencies and more defaults than ever before, and having that disparity of between what they owe and what they actually sell for at the auction, that massive gap of money that the banks are losing, banks don't want to take those types of risks anymore. So now those people that we count on every 2 to 3 years to enter back into the used car market to basically help flood the inventory with more cars and with new sales is going away. So this is going to not help prices drop down, but it's also going to help the flow of cars coming into the market because now there's not as many used cars. So all the cars that are sitting there at dealership lots are going to get stagnant. So if you are in the situation where you're basically buried and upside down in your car, I'm telling you right now, try to pay as much as you can off as fast as you can to either refinance or get out of the car, because as the market starts to turn, which we're seeing this, remember, this is not going to be a crash. This is going to be a slow, steady correction back to where prices are going to level out, which we're seeing. But every month that goes by, your vehicle is worth less. And every time they repo another car and it sells for a cheaper amount at the auction, that is dropping the vehicle value of what you're currently driving. So to sum up the used car market update right now, it's not really good for either side. Dealers can't sell cars, banks are very tight, and unfortunately, they don't know what to do. On the consumer side, if you negotiate, yes, you can get, better pricing and everything else, but unfortunately, you're going to be offset with stricter lending requirements and higher interest to be paid on your auto loans. Plus, if you're trying to trade in a car, every month your car is worth less and less. So unfortunately, it's almost a balanced spectrum, so it's not really a great time to buy a car. I'm basically telling people right now on camera that you need to wait till either November or December to purchase a car, because traditionally during these times is the slowest amount of time, and this is when dealerships tend to be more aggressive. Now, since we've had such a mild third quarter, I think the fourth quarter is really going to scare dealers and realizing how bad it is, because there are a handful of dealers I talk to that know that the bad times are coming. There's still a few dealers out there that think the market is great and they're going to make even more money coming this winter time and in the first quarter of 2024. So those people unfortunately get a really bad wake-up call when they start to see their numbers and start to see that aging inventory on their lots. So don't be discouraged. Please be patient. Unfortunately, if you're looking to buy a Honda or a Toyota, you're screwed, because I don't think they're going to be ramping up any type of manufacturing anytime soon, because why build more cars to give away for cheap when you can basically control the supply in your hand? So they're going to keep the supply low so the demand stays high, so there's always somebody willing to pay all the money and then some for a brand new Honda or Toyota. So if you're patient and you hold to your guns, I promise you in November and December, you're going to get a great deal on a car. Unfortunately, you're going to be paying more when it comes to interest, because they're expecting, I think, another rate hike in the next month or so. But you're going to see how fast dealers turn, because all these third quarter numbers are going to come out, and right in the middle of the first month of the fourth quarter, watch how fast these dealerships kind of turn head, because I always tell everybody I base the market off what the banks are doing. And the banks are scared. They are worried because they see record high delinquencies, which they've never seen. It's higher now than what it was in the '08 crisis. So if they're higher now, then basically we're just waiting for more repos to fall out. And these banks are doing everything to kick that can down the road with forbearance programs, adding payments on the end of the mortgages. And they've never done this, even in the '08 crisis, because I believe that they think it's going to be so bad, they'd rather give people a month or two of breathing room to hopefully maintain those payments, because they know once they start walking away from those cars, which people are doing now, they're going out buying a car for 50, 60% less, and then basically settling into that car and walking away from the overpriced car that they purchased in 2020 and 2021. And so to limit this, they're going to do whatever they can to keep people in their current cars. So stay educated, be patient. I promise you things will get better. But I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Please put in the comment section below what you guys think of the used car market currently. Also, please follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Lucky Lopez. I do all kinds of updates when it comes to banks, lendings, the latest trending news, and then here I just kind of focus on some of the videos. I do have a video coming up next week about the strike, which is going to be very informative. And it's going to kind of let you guys know what I see going on in the current automotive market. I want to thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you next video.